We're up to our entire interview with Honeymoon Suite's Derry Grehan. Second interview with Derry. I always like talking to him. He loves talking shop. He loves talking guitars. And of course, he's the lead guitarist of Honeymoon Suite, one of the head writers of the band. Comes up with licks that, man, blow my mind. Even today, not lost it. They still got it going on. Honeymoon Suite on Rock History Canada. When Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend had said years ago, they went, we don't want to record new music. No one listens to it. It's too expensive, blah, blah, blah. And then they proceeded to record a new album and do what they do. But to me, and I know that is a different process now, but to me, when I like a band, I'm interested. I'm a music fan. I want to hear where the chapter, as they say, an album's a chapter in the life. I want to hear where they're at. What was the impetus for you guys recording this new album?
Because it was time. And, I love writing, and we just love making music. I mean, we're a live band, we're an original band. So we just keep, for whatever reason, we come up with some songs that Johnny and I get excited about. And also, we don't do a record, if it's just mediocre, crappy songs. We thought we had some good stuff on the go. And also the right situation has to present itself, because it's expensive to do it on your own. And we fortunately hooked up with our producer, Mike Crumpus. And there was a situation there where he was ready. He wanted to do an album with us because he just started a label. So it's a long story, but that situation was really good. We just, between me, Johnny, and Mike, from the get-go, from when we first started writing, it was there was no doubt. Let's push through and make a record. Why not?
I want to hear my band, and I want to hear what they sound like today, but I don't want my band not to sound like they did yesterday. They have to have a touch of that. This album hits all the points. I mean, you guys still can rock it. Who says you get old and you mellow out? This is like right off the bat, a live video in Niagara Falls. How appropriate, going back, and I know you guys are from there. Tell me about that tune.
Yeah, man. Well, we knew that was going to be the next single, and they wanted a video. The label that we're with wanted a video. So it's been ages since we've done videos. So I kind of had to get my head around that, and thinking of locations, maybe around Toronto or something. And then Johnny suggested, why don't we go back to Niagara Falls and just try something, as, kind of full circle from the Burning in Love video, which we did ages ago. Let's just go down there with a couple of cameras, some handhelds and stuff, and walk around amongst the people, the tourists, and play the song and have people stare at us and do one of those, guerrilla video things. And it was a lot of fun. So it turned out great because it suited the song, and, Johnny, me from the falls, and the music, and it was a nice sunny day. So I think it came out great.
It was you that told me, I don't know why with Burn in Love you were saying, but he was strapped in, right? I don't know why the fans don't think of that stuff. I'm going, oh yeah, of course he was strapped in. He's the talent. You have to protect the talent. But
oh yeah.
But it's nice full circle ride. You're right.
Yeah. Well, you go over that wall, then that's the end of you. You fall into the river at that point. But for the Burning video. But it was really cool. It was just a couple cameras, a couple of guys, and us, and we're just, let's shoot over there. I have an idea. Why don't I stand on this rock and you shoot from this way? We kind of all self-directed. It was kind of fun to do it that way. I think it came out great.
When you started the band, you were not one of those like 19-year-old kids. You were already a man, but who was that guy? Who were you then? Like emotionally, how did that affect you?
Hell yeah, I was ready. Johnny and I were both ready. I was like 25 years old. I mean, I'd been doing it for a long time, since I was a kid. And it's like, man, this has got to happen soon. And fortunately it did. And no, we were a bar band for a couple of years before that, playing cover songs in shitty hotels and Kapuskasing, Elliott Lake all over northern Ontario getting our shit together. So we're more than ready. We weren't just inexperienced guys. We played hundreds and hundreds of shows. So I was ready for sure.
I like the sequencing on the new album. I like that you have a few rockers, and of course you do, because I mean, I'm a child of the '70s where we always paid attention. That first song, man. Oh yeah, we were always ready for the first song on each side. Bill Szymczyk of the Eagles told me he had a formula when he produced the Eagles. He says, "There's a formula." I went, "There's a formula?" He said, "Oh yeah, there's a formula." But anyway, find what you're looking for. Soaring rocker. Love the tune. Love the video. Tell me about that.
Find what you're looking for. That video was like kind of, I think that was a COVID video. I think we're all cut to single shots of us. That was a COVID video because that happened right in the middle of making the record. Yeah. And we'd already mixed and released Find What You're Looking For as a pre-release to the album. We released a couple of singles. And it was like, hey, guys, can you all just do your thing at home and then send it in and somebody will piece it together. So that's how that video came out. It has that quality to it. Not my favorite way to work, but that's what you had to do during COVID. If you wanted to do a video, it couldn't go anywhere.
How did you meet Johnny? I mean, did you guys connect right away? Were you friends first? How did that happen?
Well, no, I didn't know Johnny till him and I were both living in Toronto. So we both grew up in the same area, Niagara Falls and St. Catharines, and coming up and playing in different bands around the peninsula, the area. And we actually never met because we were in different cities and different bands. But fast forward to years later, after Johnny started Honeymoon Suite and was living in Toronto, and I'd moved to Toronto after living in London and going to college there. And I was just kicking around and I'd been out of a gig. One band I was with was, folded, and I was just kicking around trying to find a gig so I could eat. And I called a booking agent that I knew in Toronto who'd booked me in the past with other bands. I said, look, I need a gig. If you got any bands, need a guitar player. So he was coincidentally already working with Johnnie Dee and booking Honeymoon Suite as a cover band. Johnny's guitar player just left. So he put the two of us together and we met and things were good. I liked him, he liked me. And we got together, put the rest of the band together, started writing some songs, and that's what happened.
I just talked to Lou Gramm a little while ago, and I mean, it's sad to hear, it's like a relationship. It's like a romantic relationship. When it ends, it's not great, but a friendship relationship can be like that. And him and Mick Jones, not good. And I hear that a lot, more times than not. How did you guys maintain working together all these years? Because you're like, he's right there all the time. And I mean, I know you have breathing space and you're not with him all the time, but how have you guys made it work?
Well, it's not just Johnny, it's Dave and Gary as well. God, we've known each other 40 something years, and Peter as well. Because like you said, we're not together that much. We're not on these long bus tours, 2-3 months at a time where you can really get on people's nerves. But our lives have changed too. We're not kids anymore, single kids. We've got different lives now, which is a good thing. But I think we just still love what we do, and we haven't found anything better or more fun than just what we do together. The fact that the band's still popular and getting booked, so we don't take that for granted. So why not? People like us never really grow up anyways. I still have a 16-year-old brain when it comes to guitar and that. That's just the way I feel. And Johnny, we're so different. We have our disagreements, but overall, we love to make music together, and we want to do something cool every time.
Done Doing Me, and I related to that song, another great rocker. I mean, there's that thing about, you can have someone with a pretty face, and after a while, that face or that personality or that whatever that brought you in just doesn't work anymore. Tell me about that tune.
Yeah, Done Doing Me. I think Johnny came up with the hook and the chorus. I brought the original musical idea in, and it was a nasty kind of song. See, when I write usually the music first or the riff first. And then the music's going to tell me, is this a happy song? Is this a nice song? Or is this a mean song? Is this a relationship song? So that one had that, bad attitude type vibe to it. I came up with some lyrics, about, being not with somebody anymore, somebody who was kind of latching on to you and sucking your energy. And then the chorus, Johnny said, you're done doing me now. So it's the three of us, him, Johnny, Mike, and me, just throwing lyrics out and piecing it together. And that's how that happened. We look at the lyric, right? We look at the verse, and it all has to make sense, and it does.
How do you come up with these licks? I mean, I know it's a mother statement. It's a cliche question. I asked Daryl Sturmer, who plays with Phil Collins in Genesis, once. I said, "Well, where did it come from?" He said, "Well, I'm always diddling around." And what about for you?
Same thing, man. It's a guitar player disease, I get up in the morning usually, and the first thing I do is just pick up the guitar and noodle away. Watch the news or something, and just let my hands warm up, and not even thinking about this. I'll do some exercises or some scales or something, and out of that a riff will pop its head out, or a chord change. And that's all I need to get started. And if that could be a great chorus. So then I'm off to the races with that one. But it's like that guy said, it's just practicing and playing, which I do every day for hours and hours if I can. And things just pop out.
Through your life, who has surprised you the most when you met a person? And I'm not only looking for salacious stuff here. Is there someone you met and you go, well, that was a pleasant surprise, or what the heck? Or is there anybody who surprised you the most through the years?
Well, I've met a lot of people.
Yeah.
Geez, just people you'd never thought you would meet. Like, for example, our first American tour was with Jethro Tull in 1983, 84, from the first album. And I grew up listening to Jethro Tull as a kid, and I thought, they were this heavy, cool prog rock band, and Ian Anderson kind of scared me, when you watched him and listened to him. But then we get on the road with them, and him and Martin Barr, the guitar player, nicest English dudes ever. Once you actually meet them, they're very, very nice, very intelligent guys. I guess the other big meeting I had was meeting Eddie Van Halen one day at the airport in Toronto, just walking by me, and we stopped and had a quick chat, and he was very gracious, very, very nice. Didn't tell me to F off, but he was nice, gracious enough to talk to me for a few minutes, and then off he goes. So it's cool that people are like that, because I try and be like that too. Don't be a dick. That's the phrase, don't be a dick to people, because those people are there. They're the reason that you are doing what you do. They're just, they're fans.
Through the years, you must get people coming up to you and saying, "Hey, Derry, here's my CDR. Back in the old days, here's my cassette." How do you handle people? And can you be honest with someone if someone says, "Hey, my Aunt Betsy says I'm really good"? Well, how do you handle fans coming up to you and asking for opinions?
Opinions on their music? Well, they don't really come up, and they might hand me, those days of handing somebody a cassette or a CD are almost long gone. It's like, can I send you a file now? Can I send you a link to my music? So then I'll go, sure, and I'll check it out later. Or people will send me sometimes on they'll DM me or something and check out my band. I either won't have time to listen to it, or if I do and it's not very good, I'll just not respond. Or if it's somebody that I respect, I'll say, hey, cool, good luck with that. But I'm never a dick about it. there's no reason to be like that. I'll just be graceful about it and say this isn't for me, man, but good luck with it, right?
By the way, Ian Anderson, I've interviewed him like I think 8 times, and the first time I interviewed him, I was very afraid to. I was going, "Ooh, Ian Anderson, he seems really serious or something,
Yeah,
very introverted." Like you said, nicest, understated, very nice guy. Just like once someone.
yeah, he's an English gentleman and smart guy. And I even had to do that session with him on the Big Prize. He came in and played flute on All Along You Knew, and I was by myself. I had to run that session because Bruce Fairburn wasn't there that day. So here I am behind the console directing Ian Anderson on what flute parts to play. Go figure.
Is there anything that makes you nervous before you get on stage? You still have a little bit of that because some people say that's healthy, but is there anything that makes you nervous?
Well, just I hope my rig doesn't shut down. That's the worst, and when shit is not working, that's disappointing because there's not a lot you can do and you're in front of thousands of people. But usually that doesn't happen. And if it does, I just keep smiling, whatever. If it goes down, I'll just plug straight into an amp without any effects. I don't give a shit because people don't know. The audience doesn't know. It's all in your hands and you're playing anyways. But there's always a bit of nervousness, and that's good. But once I get out there and you look at people in the front row and they're singing along, we're all one.
As a son of a drummer who was a lot better than me, he learned a long time ago that when he was embarrassed, sometimes you don't know. I said, well, that fill you were going to do, no one knows you were going to do that fill. It's not a cover. No one knows. You're the only one who knows you made a mistake. But certain things would get to, he's 20 now. And he would say, one day he came up to me, he says, when he was quite young, he says, all those embarrassing moments, that made me work really, really hard. Whenever I make a mistake, he says, those are the points that almost inspired me. What was it for you as a guitarist? Are there points where certain things, moments in the road, crossroads that make you work harder when you were growing up?
Well, yeah. I mean, just you're only as good as your last show. And I always want to be better than my last show, a better player. I think I'm a better player now than I was 10 or 20 years ago because I work at it really hard because I still am inspired and I love to do it. And there's so many great players out there now that we're out and we're doing gigs with them, and I want to be up to snuff. I'm not going to try and be those kind of players, but I want to be as good as I want to be the best that I am, do what I do and do it as best I can.
Not Afraid to Fall. I like that beautiful, gorgeous song. Fighting Adversity. I mean, which a nice segue from what we just talked about. Tell me about that song.
That's a Johnny song. So in the writing process, I bring my things in and Johnny would bring his things in to the sessions. And then Mike Crumpus, who's also a great writer, would be the sounding board and we'd bounce things off him and he would suggest things. And between the three of us, we'd work it out. So Not Afraid to Fall was an idea Johnny had for a while. He had the lyric, he kind of had the chorus. And we all liked the idea. So that's a Johnny lyric, and I think it speaks for itself. I think it turned out great. He loves that, that's his baby, and I'm glad it came out the way it did because it's really nice.
Two versions of Love Changes Everything and New Girl Now. Digging it, man.
Yeah, cool. That's something we did in the initial sessions when we first started recording. When we were doing our bed tracks, Mike, again, the producer, said, well, while we're all here and set up, it's always good to have some re-records and some bonus tracks down the line for different markets. So we went out and cut a few of the older songs, and now we've got them in our back pocket, and we put two of them on this new record in Canada. And it just sweetens the pot, gives people more to listen to, and somebody gets a record and they're not familiar with the early Honeymoon Suite. They got, a couple of great songs from the earlier era that they can dig. And plus, we own the master.
Derry, who are your standout Canadian bands that you had loved through the years? Maybe people that you bought before you became famous yourself, but who stands out for you?
Well, I mean, from day one, Rush, of course, from, Fly By Night, when Neil first joined the band, me and my buds, we were Rush freaks. We bought every record and just watched their progression. And of course, who isn't a Rush fan? Come on. And Neil Peart came from the same, little town that I grew up in, which is Port Dalhousie, Ontario, St. Catharines. And he was just a few years ahead of me, playing around in bands there. Anyways, that him, of course, Bryan Adams, a Saga. Well, I used to go see them in clubs. Oh, I mean, this is back in the 70s, and Prague was huge. There's in our area, you'd get all these. There was Max Webster and Saga and all these bands that were. Prague was very big, but Saga were cool because they were just a great band. They were all great players, and we'd go see them in little clubs, and I'd sit right in front and just watch the guitar player and steal his licks. The material was cool. There's just live music, man. And not all the bands were that good, but they were good.
April Wine. Any thoughts on April Wine? That's actually my next one. I just talked to the Henman brothers and the cousin, and
I forgot about them. Of course, April Wine. I had their first album, the one that had the picture of the album on the front.
that's the second one on record. Yeah.
Okay, when the Henman brothers were in it. And I was an April Wine fan from day one. You're right. I used to go see them play at high schools in my area. And I just thought they were a cool band. Of course, April Wine. And years later, Miles and I became very good friends because we would cross paths. Our bands would play together so many times. So yeah, long history there.
I always wanted Miles to do an album with you. It's so strange that should come up. I remember thinking the way you play guitar, especially when they were harder edge. But anyway, you can do the soft stuff too. There was always a part of me that thought you and Miles could have worked together. I don't know why.
We should have. Yeah, we should have wrote together. It just never happened. But I think Miles and I could have knocked a few good rock tracks out because he came from the same kind of musical vibe that I came from, just guitar rock. I think, yeah, well, it's not going to happen now, but yeah, we probably should have.
In high school, were you known as that music guy?
I was the kid in the bands. Yeah, I never played no sports. I was too small for any football or anything, and I didn't care about that. Once I discovered guitar, it was all about, I just play guitar. I got in the variety shows at the school, and I got bitten by the bug. And as soon as I could, I was 15 or 16, I started putting little garage bands together and just trying to get gigs around town.
There's a Dutch band called Kayak. I remember buying them on this Kayak album in the deleted files, and I tried to get all my friends to like Kayak. Somehow they never did. Do you have one of those bands that somehow you just loved, but your friends just didn't get into, like the underrated band? Do you have an underrated band that you love but didn't catch fire?
Probably, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. I mean, there were some great.
See, that's why they're underrated.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, there was a few bands. There was a cool band in St. Catharines when I was a kid called Bulrush, and they were like a local band. They were like rock stars to me because they went to Toronto and they made a record, and I'm like, holy shit! And then the local radio station played it, and I'm like, wow, these guys are rock stars. And I would see them at the local music store and just hanging out, the long hair. And, that was a band that I followed for a long time, local band.
And they obviously never got any bigger, right?
No, they tried, they cut some, they did some recording but they just kind of, eventually guys left to go into other bands. And some of them never got out of this, the small town, which you have to do. So they kind of faded away, but it inspired me, to be a player and to move away and chase my dream, if you will.
Do you ever think about that? McCartney said in the 70s, I think it was Rolling Stone magazine, he says, the greatest bands never made it. She got pregnant, dad died, he had to take over this, circumstances, crap that gets in the way because music somehow is a luxury. I mean, do you ever think about that your path could have changed direct, but you were able to sort of get through it and continue doing music where a lot of people, like I said, dad dies. I gotta go take over the factory. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Jimmy quit. Bobby got married. What was that? The summer of '69, or
Yeah.
that's exactly what that's talking about. And no, man, I was focused, and I realized at a young age that I have to get out of this town. So I moved to London and went to the music course there, as a way to make my parents happy, but for me to first of all move away from St. Catharines and get in a musical environment, learn to record, learn to produce. Of course, you have to go. If you're in, say, Ontario, you at least have to go to Toronto or Vancouver if you're in Canada, and chase your dream, man. Like, get out of your comfort zone. Don't stay a local. Don't be a big fish in a little pond. You have to go where the big boys are and start from scratch and really work hard.
Does Honeymoon Suite have a pre-show ritual?
Yeah, it's called Canadian Club and Heineken. But seriously, no, we're pretty good up there. We might have a few beers after the show, but pre-show ritual is just, we do a vocal warm up in the change room. We get an acoustic and do our vocal warm up because we don't play with tracks. If we sing out of tune, we sing out of tune. But you're hearing the real people up there, so do the vocal warm up. But most of our time before stage is just being goofballs in the change room and screwing around and being like immature and talking and clowning around with each other and not being serious about shit. So we walk on stage, we're like, it's just that we start the party in the change room and we take it on stage.
Has there been anything crazy that a fan, and I bet you there's a few, what's the craziest thing a fan's ever done to you?
Well, they threw a pocket knife and hit me in the head with it.
Closed, right?
Yeah, it was closed, fortunately, but it was still heavy. It was when we were out with ZZ Top, and we were opening for them, and we were at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, and we were halfway through What Does It Take? And I just put my head down for a second, and this thing bounced off my big forehead, and shit, did that hurt. It kind of stunned me, and I don't know why I didn't walk off stage, but I kind of like fumbled through the solo, but I kept going when I should have just stopped because somebody picked it up and brought it to me after the show because I didn't know what hit me. And goddamn, that is, if I could find that guy, I'd kick his teeth in. You don't do that kind of shit. So that's what happens once we started touring America. We learned to keep our heads up because sometimes beer cans and cups and stuff will come up. I mean, the bras and the underwear, that's fine. They can't hurt you. But some of these Americans were pretty rowdy, especially when you open for like ZZ Top or something. So keep your head up, because there might be a beer can coming your way. So you keep your head up and you look around, keep smiling and duck.
Of all the things that you're outside of music, what are you best at outside of music?
Nothing. I'm just a grump unless I'm playing. But seriously, what am I best at? I don't have a lot of other interests. It's kind of sad, but
I think you're doing okay.
No, I know, but somehow, music is just because I run a lot of the business with the band. So when I'm not playing, my days are filled up doing all the admin stuff and my songwriting stuff. It's all like it's a full-time job.
Do you book the band? Who books the band?
No, I don't book. We have an agency, but I'm kind of the point person for a lot of the stuff that comes our way for business things and just.
Has there been one song that when you find you're doing stuff is throughout your life, has there been one song, and I do ask different questions, I try, Has there been one song that you've tried, you've had, it just sticks in your head? Or are there songs that you don't know why, that you just sing them in your head?
Oh, wow. Well, there's songs that I think are brilliant. I mean, I love Salisbury Hill by Peter Gabriel. You know, I love playing that. Boys of Summer, you know, Henley, of course. Stuff like that are just brilliant songs.
Is that Danny Kortchmar that does, who does that, the Boys of Summer?
Yeah, I think that's the story. Actually, I think, you know what, with Boys of Summer is Mike Campbell from Tom Petty from the Heartbreakers. Right. I saw a thing, Mike Campbell actually wrote that. He demoed it and he was going to use it for something else. And somehow he got it to Don Henley as just a rough demo. And Henley loved it and they finished writing it. So it's really interesting to see where songs come from.
That has the perfect amount of melancholy, longing feeling. There's just something about that song that grabs you no matter what. That's one of those songs that comes up a lot when I ask, what song do you wish you would have written? You wouldn't believe how often Boys of Summer comes up.
Well, it's the lyric. It is that you said, hit it on the head, the melancholy of it, the sadness of it. And if you listen to that lyric and the missing of, opportunity or just the longing in it, if you can do that in a song, you've done your job. So,
high point of your career.
Oh, well, there's been a lot, but I think the first big high point is when Johnny and I got our, finally we won the homegrown contest in Toronto with New Grow Now. And all of a sudden we were legitimate and we got our record deal. And I remember the first gold record from WIA, the first album, because that's a real milestone. I mean, I played on other people's albums, when I was younger, but nothing that ever sold a lot, but it was a stepping stone. And then with Honeymoon Suite, it's like, holy shit, Johnny, we've got a gold record, a Canadian gold record, but who cares? That's a huge step forward. So I'll never forget that. Well, as a songwriter, you got to be versatile. In my mind, anyways, you got to think outside the box, outside of your comfort zone. I've been in Nashville, many times over the years. I actually have a place there now, and I'll go into a country session. I don't care, because country is so pop. So I've written with country people down there, and I'm happy to contribute what I can contribute. I would love to, I don't know, somebody in Canada, I would love to write with Bryan Adams and Jim Vallance. I think we could knock out a really good song. Those are their hit makers, and I'd love to be in the room there.
What's the biggest starstruck moment you've ever had personally where you go, I can't believe I'm either talking or that person's right there?
You've got to be. I'm totally a fan, and I will always be a fan. Well, I mentioned earlier meeting Eddie Van Halen, who I've loved from day one. Actually meeting him, just guys like. There's a lot of players that I've got to meet over the last few years, like Nuno from Extreme. Guys like that, Neil Sean. We've just from doing what we do, being on tours and stuff, and finding myself in the same room as these guys and just being able to talk to them.
What are your favorite guitars?
Well, I've got the tread guitar that people started seeing on the third album. I've got a signature model. If I can do a shameless plug now, with my tread guitar, which I've got right here.
Yeah, please.
I'll show it to you. So this is because I'm in my room, so they're all down here. So this is the original one. You can see how beat up it is, and this is the one I've had forever. Okay, from the 80s.
Yeah,
and that's one of my favorite. That's my old mutt. But from that, Godin approached me a few years ago, and I now have a signature model of that guitar, which they're newer, but they're beautiful. So I use those on the road. My favorite guitar, was that the question?
Well, any of your favorite guitars, yeah.
Any of my favorite guitars. I've got a whole bunch, but I think one of my gems is I got a 75 Les Paul, 76 Les Paul Custom. That weighs a ton, but it's probably the best sounding guitar I have. And I've got a PV Wolfgang, the first one that Eddie did with Peavey way back when he first left Kramer and started that PV Wolfgang, which is a really crazy design. I bought one. I've had it for like 26 years, and it's a gorgeous guitar.
Remember, if you want to support the channel, it's been a crazy time for all our channels in the last little while. And that's one of the reasons we ask for support, because YouTube's revenue lately has been insane to a point where we actually thought of quitting. So if you want to support the channel, there's a PayPal link in the description. You can join our Patreon. You'll get early access to our videos. And we have a swag store where you can buy Rock History Canada, Rock History Book, or Rock History Music t-shirts, hats, all kinds of clothing. Subscribe to our channel, share our videos, comment on them, and like them. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Canada.